Hey Adventures, so today's going to be another book review. This is going to be for Out of the Silent Planet by C.S. Lewis. This is a sci-fi book, adventure, a little bit of religion tied into this, as well as this is the first book in a trilogy. So Out of the Silent Planet is the first book in a sci-fi trilogy, in the space trilogy as it's called, by C.S. Lewis, who is I don't know that he's most famously known for, or most well known for Narnia, but The Chronicles of Narnia is another one of his very well known works, and as well as like the Screw Tape Letters and many other things as well. Yeah, I think that this is his most well known or his most famous work of science fiction, and one that's very well loved by Christians as well as sci-fi fans. I have maybe a little bit of a strange relationship with Lewis because I like his books, but I'm never blown away by them. But even my favorites among Narnia, a well-loved and quintessential in many ways fantasy series, they're far from my favorite books, of all time, or my top 10 favorite books, or whatever it was. I don't remember where I put them on that list, but I'm pretty sure Narnia was down quite a ways when I went through and made my big top 10 or top 100 fantasy books of all time list. I'm pretty sure Narnia was not super close to the top. But at the same time, I know how important of a writer he was, and so I want to continue reading his works. This is why I'd originally dedicated 2024, this was like 4 years ago or something like that, I'd originally dedicated 2024 to be a year of Lewis, where I'd read as much of his works as possible, excluding Narnia because I'd already read that. These would be the books that I haven't read that I wanted to dedicate this year of Lewis to. And I wanted to read as many as I possibly could. It took me until August to even start this one, and this is short. And since then, I've still not read any at the time of filming this, which I am filming this on the 27th of October. And so I've only read one book in this year of Lewis, and I've got several more that I need to read, but we will see what actually happens with that. I like seeing Lewis take on science fiction. I think seeing his take here is, well, I like seeing it specifically because I know what his take on fantasy is because I've read Narnia, and while I enjoy Narnia, I wanted to see what else he could do, and I wanted to see what he could do within the realm of science fiction. And while this feels right in line with his fantasy, and especially in terms of like his writing style and all that kind of stuff, it is very clearly unique from Narnia, as well as it's very clearly science fiction. He has a wonderful imagination, and he can use that very, very effectively to create beautiful, immersive worlds. This is, I think, one of his biggest strengths as an author, as well as one of his biggest draws, the things that draw so many people to him and make you love his works as a young kid, because you're not reading them for theology, you're not reading them because they're Christian, you're just reading them because they're stories, and this is what draws you in and makes you love them, is that imagination. And indeed, here as well, he creates a very powerful image with these books that are being told. Of course, cover art helps. I love these cover art. This very classic, 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s sci-fi. When was this? Copyright 1986. So yeah, the first paperback edition was 1965. So this one being 1986 is a little bit newer. Cover illustration, yeah, was 1986. But still, I love this art style, and that does feed into my imagination of this world to some degree. But also this world, I can look at the cover and think, wow, that's a pretty cover. I like that art. But that art doesn't become real. It doesn't become alive until you read Lewis's words. The story here, while interesting, wasn't particularly fun. And I'm formulating in my mind, there's a bit of a video idea formulating around my opinions on science fiction as a genre as a whole, how I think about science fiction to some degree, and that comes up here. That opinion that I hold of science fiction comes up here with Out of the Silent Planet as well. It was a little bit of a slower story in some ways, in terms of it wasn't action, bam, 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 action. It was while yes, it was an adventure, it was not so much action heavy. and we really only spend a little bit of time actually doing anything or exploring the world. We do spend some time, but it's relatively little. I mean, the book is relatively little as well, but we don't actually spend a ton of time exploring this world. And that's one of the strengths of sci-fi to me, is when as you exploring a universe, exploring worlds, exploring something so drastically different. The same, really it's the same with fantasy, but you approach them slightly differently. Of course, this was very intentional on Lewis's part, but also a product of the time that it was written to some degree. That's not to say that it's bad. I definitely not saying that. It wasn't bad by any means. Just, I don't want people to go into this expecting, oh, it's a short book, it's just got to go until it gets to the end, because there's a lot of story to tell in such a short book. And while that's true, I don't want you to go in there expecting that you're just going to absolutely fly through every page of this book, because it's so engaging, so fast paced. If you are enjoying this, if you're reading it quickly, it's largely due to its size more than and your reading speed more than the engagement level of this book. Although I was engaged with the book, it just wasn't one that was just like pulling me through the story as some books do. It was nice to see Lewis try to incorporate a little bit of philology and linguistics into the story as well. There's not a ton there, and he's in no way the philologist that his friend Tolkien was. But it was fun to see how he approached the creation of languages, and just seeing him approach that from the level of knowledge that I have of Tolkien, as well as my own understanding of languages. Being somebody who likes languages and wants to study them, I haven't done nearly enough, but I do appreciate that, and so I can see what he's doing here and appreciate that, even though there's not that much that he actually does there. I did enjoy reading this. Don't get me wrong, even if some of the things sound like maybe I haven't. I did enjoy reading this quite a bit, and it went fairly quickly, partly due to its length. It's fairly short, but it's not my favorite thing that I've read by Lewis. There's 2 or 3 Narnia books that are just, I think 3 Narnia books that are like neck and neck up at the very top of my favorite Narnia or favorite Lewis things that I've read. I will continue reading this series because, well, one, I own them, but also I want to. I enjoyed this one more than well enough to want to continue with this series, and so I do want to continue, and I do plan to continue with reading the Space Trilogy. And I'm interested to see what happens as we continue. I've heard a lot. It's really hard to be in the Christian storytelling circles and not hear a lot about the Space Trilogy, because it's so important to Christian fantasy, Christian sci-fi. It's kind of foundational in many ways. And so I've heard a lot about the series, but I want to actually read it for myself, experience it for myself. And so yes, I definitely do plan to continue with the series. Hopefully it will be this year in 2024. It was a good book, and it really did help me get back into reading after a fairly lengthy break, about 6 months break, or it was about 5. Yeah, it was almost 6 months by the time that I actually started reading this. From the time that I'd finished Buried Giant was the last physical book that I'd actually really put time into reading. And so it's been a while since I'd read another book, and it was good to get back into this. So anyways, that is my review for Out of the Silent Planet by C.S. Lewis. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.